Do it.
All right. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm here with messages from the universe with one of my favorite people in the entire world. So I'm so excited to introduce to you Lisa Thomas. Welcome, Lisa. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for just blessing us with your time. I know that you have an incredibly busy schedule coaching, and we're doing all the amazing things that you do in the world. So
this is where I want to be right now.
Aww. So I do want to give a little background on Lisa. And Lisa, I actually work with Lisa. I've been coaching. I don't even know what we call it, but I guess we've been coaching for a little over a year now, maybe going into 2. And she's so amazing with what she does. I've been doing healing work on myself and with others for over 20 years now. And I can tell you that doing the work that I've done with you has been so effortless and beautiful and divine. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to share you with everyone.
Thank you.
And I also just kind of want to lay a little of the foundation of a little bit about what you do. And then I would love for you to kind of fill in the gaps. Okay. What Lisa does is she's an epigenetics expert, and she also works with, and I think it's really the same, kind of along the same lines, is releasing inherited emotional DNA and patterns. So I love this topic. In fact, it's probably one of my favorite topics. You are the expert, however, so can you kind of back up and explain that to us and tell us what that's about?
Absolutely. Because the word epigenetics is a big word, and it's not a word that we've grown up hearing about. But epigenetics, let me tell you what DNA is. We have our DNA code. That's the helix code that you were, came to Earth with, right? That gives you brown eyes or blue eyes, makes you 5 feet tall or 6'5". And in the helix code, we cannot change that. You can't alter that. But how our DNA is expressed in our personalities and how we feel on planet Earth is within our epigenetics. And that is based on the life experiences of our ancestors. So, for example, if they had a fear of spiders, or if you have a fear of spiders, well, it might only go back a couple generations, and your grandfather, great-grandfather might have been chopping wood, right? And got bit by a black widow and had a reaction to it that made him so sick, maybe he almost died, okay? Well, that fear energy and that trauma energy will get passed down in your cellular memory, which means why you might have been born with a fear of spiders. As a child, you have this fear of spiders, but you don't have a real reason to be. You just are petrified of spiders.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and if it's okay if I kind of jump in, because
Absolutely.
Sometimes I think people think, oh, well, maybe it's from a past life, or they're not even aware that it could be from a past life, right?
Yeah,
so
right. It could be from a past life. In fact, that's until I'd say the last 5 years, past lives was the reason for all of our fears, right? Or like if we couldn't use our voice, then maybe we were hung, okay, for speaking up. But oftentimes, and it still can be past life. But what I've found is there's so much that comes through our ancestors that based on their life experience. So people will even have memories, but they're actually their ancestors' memories, which is fascinating. And because of sites like ancestry.com and Family Search and things like that, where you can research ancestors, stories are getting passed on. So you want a quick story?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this whole thing is just so fascinating, and I've had so much personal experience with it too. So yeah.
Yeah. And I want to hear your personal experience because it's interesting and it will help everyone
else. But
too.
Part of them. I mean, you've been
I know, but I don't know which one to share. There's lots. I had a client who was having a lot of stomach problems. And it's like she just brought it up during the session for other things. She was working on money, actually, but she was having stomach problems and she brings it up to me and I cleared it. All right. Or her body clears it. I say I because I'm just able to help find it. Right. And it went back like 5 generations. Well, she press forward a bit. And I even said to her, it's like your body is starving, constantly starving. No matter how much you eat, your stomach feels like it's starving. Now just remember that, right? So she emails me back like 6 months later because of the work we've been doing, she got super interested in her genealogy. And lo and behold, she is related to like King Arthur, such a, number up there. And one of his wives, all right, one of their children and his wife, he walled up into a dungeon, okay? And the wife didn't starve to death, but she did starve. And the son starved to death because he had thought they were being a traitor. So you see how this fear energy and the starvation energy actually got passed down. And it's just fascinating when you hear the reason why. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do want to mention that before we keep going is stay through to the end because we're going to do a cool giveaway. Lisa's going to share with everyone. And shoot, I've been doing this all day today. I've had these thoughts, these great, amazing thoughts, and then they keep fleeting. So I don't know what that's about.
We'll just be flow then.
So anyway, so yeah, make sure to hit the like if you haven't seen these before and you find some value, make sure to subscribe too. So back to this story. One, I wonder, it is pretty fascinating, but how did you actually stumble upon it and really come to understand that this was even possible?
It was such a process, Cynthia, that so let's just take me back into childhood. I was born with the gift of seeing spirits that have passed on, and I could hear, and I'm clairsensory, so I could smell, right, when certain people were around. And as a child, I didn't know what to do with that. No one else in my family had it, and so that made me very different. And I was raised where you don't talk about it. Even as a little girl, I could look at people and see by the color of their skin if they were healthy or not, right? And my mom would like shush me, not because she's trying to shame me, but because she wants to protect me. Like she doesn't want people to hear me. She doesn't want me to be bullied and things like that. But I just grew up where I didn't know how I fit in this world. I didn't know why God gave me these gifts because I knew this is just who I was. So if I wasn't accepted, now I'm not consciously aware of this as a child. It's something that we take in, right? Oh, I can't show who I really am. I have to be what other people want me to be. Right. So you see how that, yeah. And everybody experiences something like this in some way. Fast forward, as I began to have children, I went through a lot of depression, but I didn't understand what depression was. Nobody told me that there's postpartum depression. But do you see, I'm being guided along the way to have to, at some point, figure something out. And I wanted a natural way. Okay, one other step that then happens. I have a very bad, because of this depression that I was in, I had this belief that my husband would be better off with someone else because they could take care of our 3 children better than me. I mean, I functioned to where I can get them to school and I could that, but I'd sleep all day long.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were in Cabo, my husband and I, for my birthday. And we went on an ATV ride. This one was a 4-wheeler and we each were on our own. And there's this side of me that I'm very competitive and I like to go fast. Okay. So I said, it was the end of the day. And I said to him, I said, Steve, I'll race you to the top of that hill. Okay. Well, I didn't even look at the hill. All I wanted to know is I didn't want to stop yet. Okay. So I take off probably before I even said go. All right. And here's the hill. And I'm about right here. And my ATV comes right back down and flattens me. And see, I'd never looked at that mountain. You don't go up that sand dune. You don't go down that sand dune.
A little too steep for the wheels to maintain traction. Yeah.
Right. But I wasn't taken. I didn't die. They thought I was paralyzed. I wasn't. And the night before that accident, my mother came to me in a dream. And Cynthia was wearing this bright red lipstick. She died young. She died when she was 60. And she was wearing this bright red lipstick. And I'm like, Mom, what are you wearing that color for? Right? And she said, because you won't forget me. You'll remember. And she said, I'm here with you. And then she was gone. And it was that feeling of I'm here, I'm here with you. Everything will be okay. I didn't know what that meant. In fact, I woke up kind of going like, what was that about? Like, why would you take the time to come tell me that?
Why would you need to? Yeah.
That's why. But what happened from that moment on is that was a defining moment in my life. And I quit doing things like I had been living on Diet Coke, for example. This is just an example.
Oh, I have a Diet Coke story too. All right.
Do you? But I knew it wasn't healthy for me. I know the lasting effects of the saccharin on your brain. I knew that, but that's what gave me my lift in the day so that I could be at base point to function for my family. You with me? Yeah. So I'm laying on my couch and I said, okay, God, you didn't take me and you could have. So what am I here for? I just completely turn my energy over to the universe. I turn it over to your guidance, and I'm going to stop drinking Diet Coke. I'm going to find a way. There's something wrong. I'm going to get healthy. And one thing led to another. So when I started doing energy work, I went to an energy worker, and I am about done with my story, I promise, but you asked a really big question.
Great. I'm enjoying it, and we're getting, Okay.
I had never had energy work done. I had become a nutritionist. I had done, some different things. But the thing that I want really to help everybody with is you have to say things that are yes to things. You have to say yes when you're uncomfortable. So my daughter had an opportunity. We were in person, and she had made an appointment with an energy worker. And I hear her on the phone say to this energy worker, no, I'm not doing it. And I felt she was really quite abrupt with it. And I felt bad for this lady. So I found the phone number and I called this lady back and I said, hey, look, my daughter has some anxiety right now. It's not about you. Let me just take your session and I'll pay you, because it's not fair to her, right? So I was really doing it to be nice to somebody, but I innately knew that I needed to do it. And in that session, Cynthia, she said to me, she goes, I usually don't put myself out like this. She goes, but you have a big calling and you need to learn how to help others by healing them. And she said, don't go into overwhelm. She goes, but as soon as you get on that life purpose, your life will dramatically change. And she goes, you'll figure out what that means. That's a big drop to land on somebody, right?
Without any structure to it either.
Nope, with no any structure. So it was okay, because it was that goosebump moment where I was like, I get it. And then one thing led to another. I began doing energy work, but I knew that I could go deeper. And over the years, I've developed my own system. And so now when ancestors come in gratitude, right, I know why. I've got the gift, right, to understand this. I know why I was given that gift. And they come in gratitude because when it clears from a client, it clears from them too, if it came through them.
Right. I mean, that's the magic of it, because it's like, usually when I see it, whether it's mine or if I'm working with somebody, I actually see it like almost unraveling.
It does.
That whole timeline.
It does. Think of just a tree in the front yard, right? The trunk is us. And then everything up above represents our ancestors. It begins with 2 parents, 4 grandparents, and it just goes out. And so when it comes up that you could have inherited abandonment 20 times in your life. from different people, different branches, different strands.
Would that explain why, like, if somebody clears an abandonment issue, that they might still have different layers of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one reason why.
Huh, that's interesting, because I have looked at different layers, but never thought of it like that. But that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
That
And it can be abandonment trapped in your lifetime. So our whole personality, I mean, we inherit many good things. So this isn't about bashing our ancestors. And this is no blame on mom and dad, because no one passes it down on purpose and nobody's karma brought this upon them. That's really important. You didn't do anything wrong in a past life to bring this on you. This is just evolution of humanity. But we don't have to hold on to them. They're actually called informational tags in the epigenetics, and they can be released at any time.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, but you can, the subconscious can trap things during your life. So if parents get divorced and it's a traumatic divorce, and it really, because as children, we are an extension of our parents. So when parents get divorced, oftentimes children will think it's because they're too much. They take too much time and response, and so they'll take it on them. Or when the father leaves or the mother leaves and they don't come back, you see, abandonment, the subconscious will go, oh, yep, people in your life are going to abandon you. And it traps that in your body. That's another layer.
Right. So I had, again, a thought, and then anyway, but I do have a question regarding, I'm shifting gears just slightly, like specifically in terms of money, what are typical patterns that you see that once people become aware of them, realize that they might be their own patterns? Right. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So while knowing what you inherit is pretty much unconscious, you're not going to wake up one morning and say, I've inherited it. But becoming more aware of how you show up in the world is going to help you figure things out. So if you have a really bad habit, meaning you're addicted to spending, no matter how hard you try, how many financial classes you've done, you spend money. Every time there's a little bit of extra money, either you're giving it away to family and friends, okay? And then there's that icky feeling of not getting paid back, right? This is a cycle I'm talking about. Or you love amazing handbags and you're constantly buying handbags, right? There's always a reason. And it can be you're rewarding yourself because you work hard, right? But unconsciously on an inherited pattern is you might not feel worthy to save money, to have money. Or you might have an inherited belief that what you have is enough. So if you have extra, you're being selfish or greedy.
So sometimes people are aware of it, right? Like, for example, if their parents told them money doesn't grow on trees.
That's right.
But if they're under, like, either subconscious or they could be just part of the lineage, how does somebody get to the core of that?
Well, subconscious is a lineage. Let's just leave it at, okay. I mean, our subconscious cannot bring childhood things up, and we can have learned behaviors where parents demonstrate, verbally around the table, money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think you are for needing a new Easter dress? You know what I mean? Like, what you have is good enough. Stop asking me. How, it can also be where we see how hard our parents work. And then as we get older, we limit our money. We put a limit on that, because of the belief that we can't outshine our parents. We don't want to hurt their feelings or think like we're too big when they worked so hard that your mom gets up at 4, makes your peanut butter sandwich, gets your breakfast, and leaves for work before you go to school. You follow me? Like, there's a lot of reasons that money gets complicated in our life, but we can only become aware of these things. I mean, we can only start to realize, hey, wait a minute, they're bigger than just my thoughts, is when it's a cycle. You're aware of a pattern. You're aware of what doesn't work for you.
Yeah. And that's it's so important. And I'm so glad that we have you today, because you're an excellent resource, right? To be able to help people with this. Yeah. And I will go ahead and direct people to your website. It's just isn't it just lisathomashealer.com?
Lisa Thomas Energy Healing.
Okay.
I think I put a link down there for you. And then
Yeah.
you can,
I'll put it
without
in the
free part.
chat.
Mhm.
So what is, so it's important to be able to pay attention to that, but it's also, I mean, that's why I still work with you. We do a session, one a month, and there's things that I know that's like, why is this still showing up? Or why is this still? And so I can recognize the pattern. And then from there, we're able to, well, you actually do most of the work. I just hang out and let it unfold.
As it should be.
And I actually, so there was one experience. What I think is really cool about this work is that it doesn't require a lot of hard emotional work. Mm-mm. And so like, what I mean by that too is I have an example where I remember there was some childhood memory that came up, and it's something that I've already done work on and thought it wasn't an issue. But when I had a session with you, it still surfaced. And it's funny because when I'm in that space with you, like sometimes things will surface. It's like, wait, why am I crying about this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But instantly, like you went in and you were able to like almost just grab the emotion out of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it just completely dissipated, and that's been completely gone from this point forward. I don't remember, it doesn't really matter the specifics of it, but that's a really cool part of what you do.
Yeah, we don't have to relive trauma to clear trauma or to clear an icky feeling. And oftentimes we avoid our emotions because we don't want to go through that experience. We don't want to relive them. And so this isn't talk therapy, is it? Like talk therapy can be really beneficial, but it's not going to release those vibrational energies. And that's what they are, Cynthia.
So long. That takes so,
it does, to repeat the stories over and over.
I don't even know. Sometimes it's not even healthy, to be honest, right? Because well, I mean,
it can benefit many people. I am not discounting it, but it's harder so I'm going to give you an example here. Every word in the dictionary has a vibrational energy attached to it. It's a frequency.
Right.
And like when I ask your body, your subconscious, what's going on, it gives me a word. It doesn't give me the frequency. It doesn't say 435 megahertz. That is not interesting to the body. But shame is the lowest vibration in the dictionary of words. And love would be an example of a really high frequency, a high vibration. So when we are vibrating at a low frequency, we get tripped up in our stories, our mental stuff, right? We live in that belief that we're unworthy. Unworthy is an icky feeling. Unworthiness holds us back. We won't take action in our plans because something will always come up, because really underneath it is we've got this vibration of unworthy. So that would be the difference is this will clear the vibrational energy so that your cells can vibrate at a higher frequency.
I love this stuff.
It's fun to talk about, huh?
Yeah. So what about, can you go back to, I do want to hear a little more about when you were, and then we'll talk about some money, a couple more things about money, but when you were a child and you were having this experience and you didn't have anyone to kind of guide or assist you, did you kind of put it away for a while before you allowed yourself to connect with that spirit realm again, or what happened there?
Many people do that, by the way. And as they get older, you just kind of let that go, and it's hard to remember it, right? You just move past it.
Right.
It did and it didn't. It got to where I didn't see people as much, but I'll tell you a quick story here. When I was young, I was very frightened of the dark because I didn't want to see people, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I would have a hard time sleeping at night. Well, this beautiful Indian woman would come at night as a child, and she would create like a diorama. She would create a scene for me where there was a husband, 2 children, right? A big fire. And it would just like, it would just take over my room. And then she'd rub my head and I would go to sleep. Okay. Now, at a certain point, I quit seeing her as I was able to go to sleep more, right? I'd say probably by 11, I had quit happening. Okay. Fast forward to during that time where I was really struggling, right? With not having energy, feeling depressed, not knowing what depressed was, right? I was sitting in my backyard, leaning against my garage door because I just felt like I needed vitamin D. And I was sitting on the cement, leaning against there. And I hear the words, Lisa, it's me. So my clairaudient never left me. I've been able to hear the entire time, okay? Or clairsensory. And I said, who is it? And she said, first of all, she goes, Lisa, it's me. I've never left you. And I just had this overwhelming sense of love. Like, I know who this is. Like, I remembered, right? Yeah. But I didn't know who it was specifically. But I knew that it was this childhood, like, guardian that would, right, come to me. She said, you have to ask your father. Well, Cynthia, I didn't want to ask my dad. I didn't want to talk about this. I didn't want to, my mother understood, but it wasn't a topic for dad. Okay. So, and my mother's passed away by now.
Oh, okay.
Right. And I said, oh, she said, just kind of like, trust me. That was the impression. Trust me.
Yeah.
So I call my dad and I give him this experience about how I hear this. And literally he goes, well, I know who it is. And I'm like, this is like a whole nother side of my dad. I was so surprised. And he said, I know exactly who that is. Her name is Ethel. He said the word, I started just downpouring tears. And he said, Ethel was married to my father before my mother. And he said, I would have never known that, except for I sent away to the state of Washington. He was from Washington, or I don't remember, and asked for my mother's their marriage certificate, and came back were 2 marriage certificates. So I asked my dad, well, who's this other lady?
Yeah.
Now, background on my grandpa, he was
I hope he had a divorce certificate somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's not that. But my grandfather's a Quaker. Now, a little tidbit about Quakers. They, at least back in the 1900s, I don't know about now, they would bury their deceased without anything on the, without a headstone, right, because right. God knew where they were. So it's hard to do that genealogy on them. Okay. And they have a belief that unless someone needs to know, you don't share it. So because when my dad said, why didn't you tell me? He goes, you didn't need to know. You're asking, I'll tell you. Ethel was a Tlingit Indian.
Okay.
Tlingit Indians are from Alaska. And she had been born and raised in Sitka, Alaska. And they met when my grandfather was in the Marines. Okay. They'd been married 3 months, and she died of the influenza. She raised from her body, my grandfather said, turned around and said, Orrin, I will wait for you. Now, you see, if she had lived, my grandfather's 3 children would have been her children. And I really believe that what she did is she stayed here to be a guardian angel. And I was the recipient of part of that. And so when she said, I've never left, when she shows up as a child, right, it's because she really felt that love for me as a granddaughter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that made you follow me, like, that's how it all came about. That's kind of what brought it all together.
Aw, that's super awesome. Yeah. I do have a little bit of a story. Maybe you can shed some light on it, because I don't know the total significance of it. But when I was a kid, I would get these visitations from this man who had a beard, and his hair was kind of auburny, sort of blondish, but maybe a little Auburny. Anyway,
Yeah.
and it actually scared me as a kid because I wasn't really sure what it was, and it was kind of in between falling asleep and being awake. And I even remember having that sort of paralysis state. So it doubly scared me when that would happen.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No, but interestingly enough, like, 20 years later, I was actually at a spiritualist church, and I saw a picture of it. It's even giving me goosebumps now. A picture of Saint Germain in a glass case, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's the man who used to come and visit me."
Yeah.
So I imagine it was for a good intention, but I don't remember like what the guy was. I don't remember him saying anything to me. I don't really remember
that can happen, Cynthia. We can have that gift of a vision, and it doesn't mean there's a reason. Okay. It just means that you have the gift. And for him, he was there to say, to let you know there was somebody always with you, right? There wasn't any evil attached to it. There's a lot of, right? None. And it makes it so cool. Yeah. I got goosebumps too. Yeah. It's just that, and I think too, you have a lot of wisdom. You were born with wisdom. You just understand people. And I think that it was part of that tutoring for you in your younger years.
What's interesting is too, I for a long time, I had an affinity then for ascended masters. And I think that Jesus is actually one of the ascended masters. And I've mentioned a few times that in the last, probably within the last month and a half or something, I've always like connected with Jesus. And, keep in mind, my dad's Jewish. Like, we're not supposed to believe in Jesus.
I understand. Yes.
But, when he comes and hangs out with me, it feels pretty real.
It does. And it feels really beautiful.
It's so beautiful. And it's just bathing in the highest love energy I could even describe. So, and I still am not sure, like I ask, like, is there something you want to share through me? Is there something you want me to do with this information? Like, no, it's just being in that space. And so maybe at some point it'll come to me what that's about.
Oftentimes it's more about just doing exactly what you're doing right now, sharing the experience that Jesus is in our life, that he's accepting of us no matter what. It doesn't mean he approves of everything we do, when he's not going to approve of murders, okay, and things like that, but he does love us. And I think it's really important. It's important to who we are to feel loved, to feel accepted, to know that we are enough. And you sharing the experience is probably what he wants, just so people know.
Because I don't think you have to have a specific religious belief to be able to connect into that. And right now, I mean, what's going on in the world, that, this could very well be the end times. I've read the book of Revelations now and think, this looks like some of this might add up.
Especially over the next 10 years, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I've always said, you know what, Jesus is a cool dude. And, I don't really care whether he was, I probably shouldn't say this, but it doesn't matter, I should say, whether he was the son of God or not, that we're all children of God. So yes. I think that that Jesus or the story of Jesus is a great demonstration of what's possible. And I think that's even in the Bible, these things or more you will do greater or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know the exact quote? But
I don't know the exact quote, but yes.
Okay. So, all right. So let's talk about some concrete things for people. And we are getting some good interaction. It's good to see you all. I see Thick Goddess. I see Ian. I think I missed somebody, but hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping in. What would you say? So we've talked about some of the levels of like money challenges, right? Is part of it subconscious, part of it's lineage.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of tips and of course, I will go ahead and mention, I did put it in the chat, the Lisa Thomas energyhealer.com/free. Where do you want to tell about that program?
Sure. It's an hour audio. And you'll go through, it's a process that I'm taking you through in there to connect to your subconscious. So you'll go through a visualization, and then you're going to hear me in there releasing things. Like, let's start, scarcity is very much an inherited vibrational energy. And scarcity can show up as a scarcity of money, right? Scarcity of time in our life. So we're always struggling, right? Or we always feel like we're running out of time. It can include the scarcity of love. And what's great about this is that it will clear scarcity of money. But the subconscious, it kind of gets a bad rap, and it shouldn't. It really is there to protect you. It's going to find scarcity in other areas of your life that it shows up. Yeah. And then after it's released, I will replace it. So it's the first time you listen to it, just listen to it, right? You don't have to be in Zen mode, but do the visualization part, because that's what connects the subconscious. All right. Then look at that.
Yeah, I'm sharing the.
Yeah. Then
here.
Listen to it again. Listen to it again. Listen, you can space it out. This is the thing. These go deep. Clearing generational patterns and frequencies from the physical body, as well as your chakras and light bodies, right? It's going to, your body needs a little bit of time to process. I put in there, give it 48 hours. You know what? It's a guide. What we have to do is honor your body. And if you're an A+ personality and you know who you are, if you are, I just want you to know that by over listening to it is not going to speed the process up. Your body needs time to release it and then rebalance, okay? Which is why I take a long time in there to replace with high frequencies. Increase your water intake.
I'm speaking of, I'm trying to get to my water. I broke my straw. Yeah, so the whole time I'm thinking I need to drink some water.
When the cells are well hydrated, the body has less anxiety, and it will trust the process of change. The subconscious is often afraid of change. So stay hydrated. And
what
then
about,
listen again.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but even blessing your water.
Oh, yeah. It's there's a Oshimoto that did the snowflake. He would take water and then freeze it. In fact, I have slides on that, and how just putting beautiful music on shared, was love, speaking love to the water. And the whole crystal was beautiful, playing, I think he used rap music, whatever it was, or speaking hurtful words, right? Mean words, bullying words. And it was a distorted water figure. So it's fascinating. Absolutely. Bless your water to serve your highest good.
Yeah. So I actually do that. If I can, wait, what is that your website playing that music?
Let's say that you have.
It is.
Yeah, it is. You probably just clicked on a video, which I do share about inherited things.
And now every time you see
now it won't go back. Share it again. Share your screen again, and then click on
any traumatic event yourself.
Hold on.
There's probably something
a little, it's a little Mercury retrograde tech issue. There you go.
Okay, hold on. I don't know. I'm going to close that for a second. Okay.
Okay.
Go back to go back to sharing the screen.
No, you don't have to go back to sharing it now unless you want to.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I did want to mention some of the other programs, but the Diet Coke story.
Yeah.
Was there something that specifically happened because we're talking about water? That's why I was bringing it up. Was it when you had the accident and you decided to heal?
I had tried many years to quit drinking that stuff. for many years. It was the caffeine I needed. See, now I'm not bashing caffeine. There's good sources of caffeine, like green tea, right? You can have good sources of caffeine. This is not the caffeine issue. It was the properties in the soda. Now, you might also find it interesting. Dark sodas are not good for the body. So we could say across the board, sodas in general are not good for the body. But if you are addicted to a soda, drink Mountain Dew with caffeine. Don't drink a dark soda. It brings the energy level of the body down a lot.
Yeah, and I think physically, they've even showed it, like it will rust a metal, and it's
Coke
really
does.
intense.
Yeah,
what it
does.
Can do. So I had an addiction to Diet Coke, so much so that now you see me drinking one of these, but it's filled with water.
Right.
Where I used to drink at least like 3 to 4 of these filled with Diet Coke, and I would go through at least a 12-pack a day of Diet Coke. So I was seriously addicted.
Yep, I'm right there with you. 3 super big gulps a day. Yep.
And what happened for me is it was part of like the beginning of another level of my spiritual journey. Back in around 2000, I started just asking the question, who am I? Like, who am I really?
Right.
And really just going in deeper into, we're not this, I'm Cynthia Glickman. I'm, dean of a college, whatever my title was, really digging into who I am as a soul being, spiritual being. And one morning, I had this like Kundalini rising. I felt the energy completely just explode, like through all of my chakras. And I actually saw light. And the next day, the first thing that I used to do every morning was, as soon as I got up, I went straight to the refrigerator and would crack open a Diet Coke. That morning I woke up and I was like, it actually disgusted me. I couldn't even touch one. I'm like, I need water. I need water. And so for me, that was a spontaneous sort of kabam. Do you have any suggestions? Like, let's say somebody is dealing with some kind of addiction, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, whatever. Is there it comes to,
that was a defining moment for you.
Yeah.
That Kundalini experience. I was laying on my sofa and I said, okay, God, you didn't take me. So I already hurt from head to toe right now. I'm not going to notice the difference with a caffeine headache. So I'm going to go off right now, and I'm going to follow the universal guidance. So it was a defining moment. Everybody has a defining moment. And like you, I haven't never touched it since. Like, I'm not even going to go there.
It doesn't even.
But you know what? There's other addictions like to procrastination. Well, it might not be that easy, right? And so there's an audio on the website about addiction, because addiction is inherited.
Yeah. Oh, it's like inherited.
Oh, yeah. Addiction is inherited. Like the easy one to, an addiction to drugs, an addiction to alcohol, an addiction to suppressing our emotions, our addiction to spending money, our addiction to having to control situations to be safe, right? Those things come down through lineage. And they're taught. Some things are taught, like control can be taught if we have a parent that controls.
Yeah, that's, I have a friend that's talked to me about that, and I know it's pretty common, actually, the control one. It's, I mean, I don't know if it's a combination of years of work, or I just kind of, I'm a Gemini and I freewheel it a lot.
Yeah. And I'm an Aquarian with a Gemini rising. So I'm all about freedom. I agree. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you can't mask this girl. So that's a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I saw that, that was not good. But okay. So I'm going to go back and share, just because I'm not going to click on it, but I do want to mention that, I mean, I personally have had some great experience and huge transformation working with you. There's a ton of testimonials here. And I think you say that you've helped thousands, but I would say it's probably closer to thousands and thousands, right? At this point. So I wanted to just point out some of your programs, because if you don't want to do the one-on-one, you have a really great set of programs. And you mentioned, I don't know the addiction one, but
I think the addiction is in my infinite opulence program, which is a huge program of all my audios plus extra bonuses. And or you can also buy, if you shop around, if you look around in the shop area, there's an addiction program, and it's like the addiction to food, the addiction to fear, I think, is in there. There's 3 audios in that program.
Okay. And then for those that actually are healers, you have a program for that too.
I'm going to be starting one again coming up here in
Is
spring.
that this one, the Soul Awakening
It's
method?
Soul Awakening.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
And this is part of that. You say yes to things, even you don't know how it's gonna show up, how it's gonna turn out. Because that can be another thing that holds us back, Cynthia, is when we think we get a bright idea, but we have to figure out all the steps to get to here. Because the truth is, right, I don't know that I would have ever said yes years ago just to learning about nutrition if I had known I would be here, right? Because it would have been too overwhelming for me. Like, I just had to be led and say yes to those things. So this course is, I teach it personally. It is a process I give you, like, you're going to really learn a method that you can take a client through for an hour session, in person or over the phone, and with lots of tools, lots of support. It's called the Soul Awakening Method. Read about it on my website and just fill the form out if you have a desire to do that. Right now it's 9 months. It sounds like it's big, but you know what? It goes along so nicely with me and with others in the group, and you heal along the way, because within 6 weeks of the program, you're practicing on each other. Everything I teach, you're
awesome.
practicing. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And to have any access to you at all is definitely.
I do healing on there too. I do. That's sweet of you.
Well, I mean, in any capacity, even if it's a recorded program, I mean, you'll seriously be blessed to be a part of it. So I'm grateful that I connected with you and have met you. You've definitely been a big part of my journey. And like I said, I mean, shoot, in 2000, I've always been connected as a child too, but in 2000, I kind of had a pretty big awakening, and have been on this, what seems like this never ending, which I suppose it is infinite. So yeah. But
take it back one step. We still have to honor our bodies if we're going to use the food or the Coke as an example. You had the Kundalini experience, but the habit of doing it, you could have just said, well, what the heck? I don't feel like it, but this is what I'm going to do anyway. Right. You still had a choice. We always have a choice. I could have ignored that and drank Diet Coke, so I would think that I could get off the sofa quicker from this accident, right? I could still make the choice. Sometimes when I get tired, at this point, it doesn't come to my mind anymore. But we always have that choice of, are we going to honor our intention, or are we going to disregard it? And if there's unworthiness, it's easier to disregard it.
Well, isn't that's probably, and of course it connects to money, but that's kind of one of the biggest, I don't know if foundation is the right word, but it's kind of one of the biggest core issues that I think people deal with, right? Is just self-worth. Self-worth.
And we can even feel confident at some point in our life and still have a self-worth issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually doing an exercise with somebody where I was simply just having them breathe love into their heart and allow the love energy to pour over them, and got help that person to kind of calm down and get into the space. And interestingly enough, the first thing that they said once they came out, because it was emotional for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first thing that this person said was, that was really hard for me. And I said, well, share, like, what was that? And the thought of unworthy, like, I'm not worthy for this love.
Yeah.
And isn't that amazing that, that's the love, like, that to me even made it even more clear that, hey, this love is all around us.
Yeah.
And it's up to us whether we choose to allow that in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about necessarily receiving it, or I got to go get it.
It's always there.
Yeah, it's always here.
Yeah.
And so we worked on that, but
that's cool. Really a great story, because we can disconnect from source energy for a variety of reasons. We can feel unworthy. We can think we did something wrong, so we're not deserving of it anymore, right? Guilt can hold us back in that area. Or we can, feel like because we aren't perfect, then source is going to judge us. So we can disconnect and not be aware that we've done it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, this is just so awesome.
You and I could talk forever. That's
true.
True.
We could go on about it forever. I do want to share a couple things, because Thick Goddess is really getting into this with us. So,
good.
And I actually know her personally. She's an awesome lady. So I do want to share. She's saying that she's definitely interested in your program because she is a healer.
Okay.
And she's been called for some higher knowledge. And I know that she's on this planet for a big purpose as well. So,
you know what? Yeah. Now is the time. Now is the time. So if you felt any way held back in the past, those are just illusions that aren't going to serve you anymore, right? And now is the time, because there isn't one person. There isn't like, it's not about me. It's about helping others to be able to help others. And I really think of it as healing one person at a time, heals generations.
Oh,
and everyone.
Okay. So that is the greatest thing right there. Yes. So we need to tie this up in a bow about how, like, by doing this work, like, I think sometimes people think it's selfish, like, I don't get that, but but what is so crucial about, as you make that change, you're actually impacting all of humanity.
Absolutely. On a cellular level, because we are all aware that the world is becoming more divided. And yet at the same time, it's not allowing anymore for fence sitters. Like, you have to decide kind of like, which side are you on, in a sense. And not that one side is better than the other. We can't get trapped in that. But if you're anybody is being called to be a healer, like, take action in it.
It's time. It's
time, because the world needs you.
Do it, friends.
Yeah, that's right. Do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do always believe that the reason why I have I don't know what you call it, my trade name, Joy Doctor.
Yeah.
It's because I think it was about 2000 when I had that pretty profound awakening.
Yeah.
I did recognize that I'm on this planet to assist in the evolution of the consciousness. That I want to spread world joy. That's what I'm here to do. I don't know what that looks like. It sounds kind of goofy, but that's
what you're here to do. And look what you're doing now. And you have so much to share and so much to give, Cynthia. A podcast is perfect for you to share your bright light out there, to touch those people that are wanting to know what you know, right? And where you have these similar ideas and it's perfect for you. I'm so excited you're doing it.
Thank you so much. And I'm taking that in.
Good.
I'm going to read that in. And I wanted to share that and impart that on everyone that does happen to see this, to hear this, to be a part of it, that we all have a different part to play. And I invite you, I encourage you to follow what your heart is guiding you to do, And just by being the essence of who you are, you're creating a transformation in the world.
Yep. You know, just by smiling at somebody, they can tell if you're smiling even with a mask on.
Yeah, I did get in trouble. I don't wear the mask, and I did actually get in trouble yesterday.
Yeah. You know,
I've
kind of let go of the irritation around it, but everyone's different. But the point is that interacting, right, is important. And when we shut off energetically and we have our head down, you can't create transformation like that. Yeah.
Right.
So begin with what you can do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just send love to everyone. Thank you all for your time. Lisa, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Great discussion, great topic.
All right, everyone, have an amazing weekend. Yes.